More with more. Kansas on a 3-game winning streak since Shak Moore's been implanted into the starting lineup. Will this continue? We got a tough road matchup against Iowa State. A lot to talk about. Let's get into it.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast over here on our YouTube channels where you can check us out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. And if you are new to the show, welcome. If you are new, you definitely need to be subscribing because we've got a lot of great content over on this channel. Chiefs, Royals, KU football, and of course, KU basketball, our most fun topic we love to dive into. And fellas, last week when we were talking KU basketball, it was coming off of a very disappointing loss at home to West Virginia. We talked about just all the woes and disappointment with this team, the roster construction, the rotations, all that. And then we went into the upcoming schedule, how the next 4-game stretch was going to be insanely tough. But here we're sitting, KU's 3-0. All 3 games a little different, but the two main overarching storylines is Shak Moore has been input into the starting lineup. That was the first major change we saw from the West Virginia game. We didn't get all the less KJ minutes and more minutes for other guys, but we're seeing a lot of Shak Moore, and that has definitely played an impact. And then KU coming out in the second half has had 3 of their best second half of the not just the season, but the last couple of years defensively en route to those 3 wins. They come back against Arizona State at home. They just put a whooping up on UCF, which is a game that we were a little worried about. And then, of course, this last weekend over in Cincinnati, very, very low scoring game that had ultimately no offense, but KU's defense was right there. So 3-game win streak. They got Iowa State on the road this week. Iowa State, top 2 team in the country. We got a lot to get into. Let's just go back. Anybody wants to take it, reflect on the last 3 games. What have we seen? What's working? Is Shak Moore the answer? Or is there something else going on?
Yo, he's definitely the answer. And for anyone that's been following the last couple episodes that I've been on, there's been something that's been kind of starting, and it's like the chronicles of JB's hat. And I've been wearing my your hat, like my your asterisk hat. Just a grammar joke. But I wear that hat when I am not a fan of what KU is doing, when I'm upset, when I'm furious with our team, and I have a KU hat on now. So for anyone that can get the hint, I'm thrilled with how we've been playing. Honestly, having Shak just, I guess, come into the role that he really came here to play. And honestly, not even just come into that role, but exceed expectations. I mean, I thought the guy was going to be on the bench. I never thought he would start a game. And here he is starting and making an immediate impact. He doesn't have to even just score to make an impact. He's making an impact defensively. He's got hustle. He's got grit. And he's been a spark plug for us. And we talk about spark plugs off the bench. I mean, he's a spark plug in the starting lineup, and you got to love to see it. So, like you said, Keegan, we haven't seen everything that we wanted to change about this team quite yet. Still seeing a lot of KJ and Hunter playing together, but still really impressed with Flory and his production when he's getting on the floor. And it bothers me to no end that still nobody can say his last name correctly. Gosh, even where I work at KMBC, I was really upset because our own sports anchors were saying Bidunga instead of Bidunga. Really bothered me because we established what it is. Anyway, I'm just going on a little rant, but things are pretty good right now. I don't know how you guys feel.
I feel that it's appropriate that you have a grammar hat. Is what I fear. That's how I feel. No, I think that I don't know. I really like Shak Moore. I've been really impressed with the lineup, with him in the lineup. I think I don't want to know if I want to say he's the answer, because I think our problem was exceedingly complex. I think he's part of the answer. I think he's a step in the right direction, but we still have guys sitting on our bench, incredibly talented All-American level guys that we still can't figure out how to use. So I don't like that because, it's great that we're picking up really tough wins, but offensively we looked terrible this last game. I know we stepped it up the final 6 minutes, and defensively we looked incredible, but we can't go through droughts like that, especially when we have, again, two really talented offensive guys that we just can't figure out how to use. So, again, it's a step in the right direction. If we have our starting lineup cracked, awesome, cool. But I'm much more concerned about rotations, about lineups throughout the game, who's finishing the game. So I'd love for us to be able to figure that out before March gets here. But it's a step in the right direction. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy or anything like that. Again, Shak Moore is fantastic. And hopefully it's the start of a major improvement that we'll see.
So I kind of want to get Austin's 2 cents on this, but Spencer, you said something that kind of made me think, as much as I am optimistic today, it's optimistic JB on this episode, but as much as I'm optimistic, gosh, I don't know if this is a hot take, Keegan, but I was gonna say, Keegan, I still haven't seen much out of AJ Storr, and I haven't seen much, unfortunately, from a guy who, like Spencer said, I mean, he's a superstar, and he's someone that should be producing. So, Austin, what do you think about AJ Storr? I mean, I think I said it in the last recording, but it almost feels like Bill Self needs to just loosen his grip on the leash, just let it go. Honestly, just throw it into the grass. I mean, let the guy play, let him do well. But in the minutes that he's gotten, he has turned the ball over. He has wildly missed shots. I saw 2 air balls against Cincinnati. I mean, it was it was awful. So is, we know it's a step in the right direction having Shak Moore. Is another step AJ Storr and getting him going more, getting him more minutes, or are you worried by his low production when he's on the floor?
I'm very worried about his low production. I think anybody would. The fact that he hasn't gotten a whole lot of minutes, I think, plays into it. I mean, honestly, I feel like he's just trying to be somebody that he's not. I mean, look, we've talked about it before. He's transferred to, 2 different schools now, and I believe he transferred to 3 or 4 different high schools as well. So he's
been on a different. This is his 7th team in 7 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if that has anything to do with what we're seeing from AJ right now, but I feel like Bill just needs to let him be himself, and maybe if that works, then I think stick to it. I mean, usually Bill wants his guys to play the way that he wants them to play, and I guess AJ just has a different, play style. And I think we've all known that in the back of our minds, but I think if he can just let him play freely and play like himself instead of, worrying about maybe some of the other stuff that Coach Self has probably told him, then maybe we'll see a different version of him. But I mean, it's got to happen at some point. So I expect something to happen against Iowa State. If you're going to change it up, you're going to get AJ, his confidence back. Got to do it now, and you got to do it immediately because there's no good time for it.
Yeah, even though this team's on a 3-game win streak, and I think a lot of that you can give credit to Shak Moore's influence on the court. I mean, he's another ball handler. He's another on-ball defender. He takes some of the strain off of DeJuan. So he's been impressive, but that's also come at the expense of AJ Storr and Ryland Griffin to an extent, not getting as many minutes. And then we've all said this plenty of times that if KU is going to hit its true ceiling this year, they need Ryland Griffin and AJ Storr to be bucket getters. And I was planning on getting into this a little bit later in the episode. We'll go ahead and do this now. Did you guys happen to catch Self's press conference for Iowa State?
Shoot, no.
Okay, well, I want to get into it. He had a lot of great talking points from this. It was about 12 minutes long. You should go watch it later. But you got a lot of good questions about, why are things working? What's Shak Moore providing? He got into, well, he's physical. He's got energy. When he's in there and KJ's in there and they're both, defensive lockdown guys, he's like, who else are you going to play? Because somebody asked him about Rylan and AJ not playing as much. He's like, well, if I got two guys on the court that are bringing the intensity defensively, and KJ's getting offensive rebounds, which he finally did for once. Hunter and Dewan's going to play, so there's only one other spot in the court. He's like, and Zeke's got to play. So he goes, it's just more because somebody asked him, he's like, I can't remember the way it was phrased, but it was how are you gonna get more out of AJ, if he's not playing, or is he not living up to season expectations? He's like, well, he's like, I'm seeing some strides from AJ, but also at the same time, it's not like AJ's doing things as badly. It's just other guys that are getting opportunities are maximizing. And so he's like, right now, we win that game in Cincinnati in the second half with Shak Moore and KJ. He said KJ was the best player the second half in an incredibly ugly offensive game, like Spencer mentioned. They shoot, less 2 for 21 from three, less than 30% from the floor. Now Cincinnati also didn't do much of anything either. Credit to our defense. But I thought it was interesting, just some of his comments on, I think he knows what he's going to get from Rylan is a little bit more than what he's going to get from AJ. And I think the message has been pretty clear. If AJ's not going to rebound and defend and play physical and aggressive, he's not going to get play time. But at the same time, if there's other guys doing those things, we all know how Self is with his rotations. He goes to the guys that are doing the little things as much as possible. Even Diggy Coit has been getting less run time the last 2 weeks because he's not producing. Not that he's playing terribly. His defense has been okay and his tenacity's been there. But with Shak Moore now into the mix, he gets less opportunities for Diggy Coit. Obviously, he's not going to sit Dewan. He's not going to sit Zeke as much as he can. They're going to be primarily on the floor in the backcourt. So I think it's just a rotational issue that this coaching staff always has. It's going to be 7 players, and the 5 guys that do the most little things consistently are going to be the guys that get the most minutes. That being said, though, especially against Iowa State coming up, you need to have a big game from Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr. You brought them here to be a large part of your offense and scoring punch. They got to be a part of that. So I think that's still my concern. Spencer, I think you should definitely touch on some of the offensive issues. Obviously UCF, we blow them out, put 99 up on the board. Zeke had a good game shooting. Arizona State, we struggled, had to play a physical game the second half. And then Cincinnati, there was nothing working, couldn't even get to the free throw line. So what are you still seeing out of the offense that has you worried that despite the massive uptick in defense the last few games, that this still has you worried against teams like Iowa State, Houston, some of the other top Big 12 teams and how they're going to be able to hold up against them? Is the defense going to be enough to make up for the offensive woes?
I definitely think we still need some sort of a identity on the offensive end, whether that's we want to run everything through the inside, or if we're gonna play inside out, or we're gonna be a transition team, which is challenging with Hunter. So that, I think that's my biggest concern, is without an identity, you're not going to have consistency. And that's why we've had games where we look explosive offensively. UCF, we were blowing them away offensively. But then you have games like Cincinnati that happen when you don't have consistency, and when you not only in your play style, but again with the lineups. We're having games when certain guys play a lot of minutes, and we're having games when certain guys don't play a lot of minutes. So I still think spacing's an issue. That's not going to magically go away unless KJ starts shooting 30 footers with ease. It's not going to go anywhere. And I feel like those issues are going to be pretty prevalent unless there's major changes. And I think, I know the old school mentality is, a good defense beats a good offense. I disagree. I think if you have a firepower offense, it doesn't matter how good you are at defending it. If they make shots, they make shots. We got away with that with Cincinnati. Cincinnati's probably not going to be a national contender, but we're about to go into Iowa State against a really, really good team. And I can promise you, even if we play well defensively, we're going to get smoked if we don't play better offensively. We don't shoot better. So that's my concern. Now, I will say against UCF, Flory looked like don't get used to seeing him. He's going to be gone.
Oh my God.
Just his pure offensive potential is crazy. Having him be in the 5 and being able to do like a run and gun offense would be fantastic. he had I'm going to pull a very obscure NBA highlight, and I really hope somebody knows what I'm talking about. This was back in like 2012. Jeremy Evans, he played on the Jazz. It was a preseason game. They were playing the Clippers. He blocks a guy's jumper from like 17 feet out, gets the board, takes it all the way forward, and then posterizes the same guy that he blocked. I quite frankly think that's grounds for retirement if you're that guy. But Flory's highlight against UCF reminded me just of like that, just his ability to off just a quick jump defending a guy on a spin jumper to block it, send it 4 feet, take it the whole court. So I think there are great spots offensively because we got guys like Flory that are super offensively talented, and we have guys like Storr and Griffin that can get it going. But I don't know. We just need to see that on a more consistent basis. If we shot well during this 3-game winning streak, I would feel a lot better than I do right now. But we just haven't.
Yeah, that's the thought process I keep having. Like, I had to go back and rewatch. I missed the Cincinnati game live, so I went back and rewatched it Saturday night, and then the Arizona State game, I went back and rewatched parts of it. Because we still struggled so much offensively, and without that second half run like Kansas always does at Allen Fieldhouse, that game, KU was down 6 at halftime, yet somehow they were still the favorite. They weren't getting anything offensively. It's like that's still a concern for me. Is this offense? It's really not much different than last year. The difference is this team can defend better than last year's team. But if the offense isn't going, like if Hunter's inefficient, I think Hunter was like 7 for 16 this weekend, and he was our leading scorer, but missed 3 threes. Didn't get to the free throw line once again. We only shot 5 free throws. That was a very wonky game. There were no free throws at all on any side, really. I think the first free throw attempts came at the very end of the first half. But that's still a major concern for me. Hunter, in his press conference earlier today, he said this, and I saw it on another podcast, and it's very much true of Bill Self. Bill Self would much rather win that game than win 85-80 in an offensive juggernaut. So he's all for we'll grind out an ugly game if we're stout defensively. And because of that addition of Shak Moore, KU's actually slid back up in Ken Palm a little bit. Their defensive rating, now they're top 4 in the country. And I think, 2 weeks ago they were outside of the top 20. So that's definitely gotten better. Now offensively, they're still bad. They're outside of the top 30 offensively in Ken Palm, which is evident. I mean, we've seen it. Spencer, you talked about it. The spacing's bad. If Zeke's not hitting a bunch of shots and DeJuan doesn't get his one open 3, and Rylan Griffin's not hitting a corner 3, it's a lot of is Hunter getting his looks. And I think that's the frustrating part is this offense. When Hunter's not getting going and Zeke's not hitting 3s, or not getting getting those mid-range jumpers or something, it's a pretty ugly game.
Well, so Keegan, we talked about Hunter an episode or 2 ago about how, honestly, I mean, he's great offensively, but he's an extreme liability defensively. And then looking back at these last couple of games, it seems like Hunter has been doing better.
Yep.
I don't know. What have you seen different from Hunter in the last couple of games as opposed to all the negativity that was surrounding him to start the season?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think if you look at the Cincinnati game, it definitely helps that they missed a lot of shots. And that plays a factor. But I think, and Hunter said this too in his press conference, somebody asked him about him being a shot blocker, and then somebody asked Self about that, and Self joked, well, Hunter would probably tell you he's a shot blocker, but Hunter also tells people he can dunk, and Self, was joking because he can't do either. Can't block shots, can't dunk. And Self said, he goes, what I look at him is with his size and length, he doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the quickness, but can he be a lane disruptor? So entry passes into the paint. Can he take up enough space that it forces somebody to change their angle or to force up a bad shot? Can his length provide enough that it gets the guys that are in the paint a contested shot? I think we've seen some of that, but I think it's also been the defense as a whole. When the whole defense upticks and he's just back there kind of playing the backup spot, help side defender, backside blocker, I think that's some of it. Earlier in the season when Hunter was struggling, he was getting beat, but also the guys guarding the ball were getting beat on the switches. Some of it being AJ Storr, a lot of it missing the helping the helper and not getting in the right space. So I think that's definitely a factor. And again, maybe a lot of that's Shakeel Moore. In his last 3 games, he's gone from 12 minutes to 22 minutes to 27 minutes. And the defense has gotten better every single game. And if him and KJ are doing that, I think that takes a lot of pressure off Hunter. So yeah, Hunter definitely has improved defensively. I still have my worries that with the right type of team that's got speed and athleticism and can attack the pick and roll, that they're going to struggle. And I think Iowa State's a team that could exploit that. But yeah, I've been happy with his improvement on the defensive side and just hope that it continues.
He had a nasty dunk against ASU too. I feel like we got to give him credit. We give him a lot of flack for not being able to jump over a sheet of paper, but that was pretty nasty dunk. I think we can all give him credit there.
I wish that was something you could bet on, the over-under on Hunter Dickinson dunks in a game. It would have to be half every time.
Yeah, 100%.
Or the over would be juiced.
Going back to your point on that, because I've heard this before, and I'm not surprised itself has this mindset, but I think it's important to be able to win those grinded out games. So you're trudging through the muck the whole 40 minutes, 50 to 48 kind of games. But I don't think you can just play like that. Otherwise, those Tony Bennett Virginia teams would have 10 national championships. You have to be able to be consistent on offense. You can't just grind it out all the way through March. I just don't think that works. I don't think that's the winning formula. But I agree with the notion we should be able to win games like that, and when we do, it's good. But I don't know. I'm still concerned about it.
Yeah, it definitely helps that if you're not scoring the ball, but if you're also preventing the other team from scoring, then it still keeps you in the game. But like you said, Iowa State's a team that even if you prevent them from scoring some, their defense is so elite too that if you're not getting anything, it's just that much tougher. Now, I would much rather win a grinded out game like that than a shoot 'em out game, because I think anytime K's in a shootout game against Iowa State in Ames, they've come out on top. Except for we got to go back to that Elijah Johnson 39-point explosion, or the Joel Embiid year. That was a great game too. The Iowa State's a tough one, but Austin, that's where I was going to go to you next. You and I have talked about Ames, Iowa as a very interesting, scary place to go as a KU fan because, like most teams, when Kansas basketball is in town, it's the Super Bowl. It's the national championship. It is their greatest thing. KU basketball has probably some of the best tradition when it comes to students camping. Iowa State camps out for like 10 months for this game, it seems like. They've already had stories on this game. Fran Fraschilla already posted something about Iowa State college students been camping out since Saturday and the game's Wednesday. And, this is something like that's literally what we do here all the time. We just don't do it outside. We don't do it outside. We do it in the arena. Anyway, first off, are you going to go to the game? Are you calling any part of the game? Are you planning on driving up there?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Okay. I thought you had mentioned that to me earlier in the year.
Yes.
Trying to get up for this game.
Yes, I'm going to the game.
Have you been to Ames before for a KU basketball game?
I have not. No, I've only ever driven through Ames before, so I've never, hung out there or anything. So this will be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it.
So take me through your thoughts on facing this Iowa State team, who's number 2 in the country. If things fell just a little bit differently the first week of the season, they'd be the number 1 team in the country. They're top 10 in KenPom and most every other site in both offense and defense. They're top 5 in some categories for offense. They have the 6th man of the year in Jones, who should be starting on most every other team in the country and exploded the other night. He's their leading scorer. Thoughts on this matchup? This is the one you circle on the calendar going KU's toughest road game of the Big 12 season, probably.
Listen, I mean, KU's looked pretty good the past couple of games. Them beating Cincinnati and Arizona State in the way that they did kind of swayed me into believing that KU might have a chance in Ames. I mean, listen, before the season started, we looked at that Iowa State game, and I'm sure all of us in the back of our minds went, yeah, that's a loss. Yep, that's a loss. Yep, that's a loss. Yep, let's just get it over with. Let's just accept it now, and let's just move on so that way whenever that game does happen, my day's not ruined. But I mean, to each their own. But no, I am going, and my buddies kind of, they were the ones that were kind of pushing for me to go because they wanted to go to this game, and I was like, you realize that KU's not going to do what, because when's the last time that KU's played well in Ames? I mean, I think the national championship year, and that was when Iowa State wasn't that good, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa State is what, number 2 in the country right now. I mean,
Yeah, this might be TJ Otzelberger's best team he's had
Ever?
you know
since
what's
he's been
funny?
there, possibly.
You know what's funny? KU hadn't had their best team in the past 2 years, and they've been ranked higher than Iowa State. So,
Yeah,
just telling you.
yeah. This
But
is
anyways,
their highest ranking in program history as of right now.
yeah, exactly. No, but I think school doesn't start for another week, just like KU for Iowa State. But yeah, the students are still going to be there. It's still going to be a sold out crowd. I mean, it's going to be okay. Like, it's a top 10 matchup, and it's against KU. They're going to show up for that game. Students are not. Yeah, I mean, I've heard. I heard they like to boo. Iowa State fans like to boo a lot. Now, I will say, I went to the Big 12 tournament last season, and I went to a couple of Iowa State games, and I think for half of each of the games I went to, it involved booing from Iowa State fans. So I'm just going to really see how much they boo this time, on their home court. I don't know, but I'm going to really experience, the fan base of Iowa State, if you will, and I'm interested to see that.
So let's get into this game. Iowa State, again, they've got scorers all over the court. They've got probably the best 3-guard lineup in the country, if you count Curtis Jones playing guard off the bench. They have a very tall lineup. They play 3 guys, the 3, 4, 5 spot that are 6'8" or taller. So they're going to have a size advantage. Their 5-man has about 30 pounds on Hunter, maybe 25 pounds.
That's bad already.
Yeah, Taman Lipsey is one of the best defensive guards in the country. We know he can score if he needs to. To me, this is, as I look at it on paper, oh man, I hate this matchup. Like, you could talk me into a lot of different scenarios. I think this is a team that we do not match up well against. Shak Moore's been in the starting lineup the last 3 games, but do you want Zeke to guard a 6'8" guy to start out? Wouldn't be shocked if Rylan Griffin gets the start. And then they rotate around, but that's also not when KU's played its best. So there's a lot that worries me about this game. Iowa State's going to hit some freaking threes. Keshawn Gilbert, they have 2 guys averaging more than 16 points. They have 5 guys in double figures, essentially 6 with their starting big man, Deshaun Jackson, at 9.5. So, they can score it a lot from all over the court. They shoot 35% from 3, which means they'll shoot 45% Wednesday night. And they rebound well, they defend well, they scored. This is a very complete Iowa State team. So I'm very much on the side of I don't go into this game with a lot of expectation of us coming out with the win, but I do think we're going to play very competitive. But like Spencer, I think, said, I don't see this team keeping up. If Iowa State comes out and they're just on an offensive juggernaut, I don't see KU keeping up with it with the way they play defense up there in Ames. Now, I think both teams defensively are so good that they could make this a very ugly game. And so to me, this plays into, we got to be physical. We got to come out. We can't have like this is a team that could jump out 18-2, 18-4 if we come out with the same lack of energy we've had in 4 of the past 6 games, where the first half we're down 14-6 and we have to make a run, or we're down at halftime at home. I don't think that can happen. You do that in Ames, Iowa, you're not coming back. I mean,
right.
Ames is like Allen Fieldhouse in that sense of, you get the lead there as the home team and that crowd, you keep it as long as possible, and it's very difficult to come back. I'm very nervous. I think there's a lot of things we could do in this game to help us out. I think it would be interesting to see the Flory Hunter combo for a couple more minutes this game, especially with Iowa State's size. I actually think that could play to our advantage with Flory's athleticism. I also see scenarios where AJ Storr, Rylan Griffin have to to me, Rylan Griffin has to hit 2 big threes in this game. There's got to be 2 big time signature threes in this game that come, either right after a timeout or leads Iowa, caps off a KU 8-0 run that forces Iowa State to burn a timeout at a unique spot. And I also think AJ Storr needs to have a presence in this game with his athleticism and size. But I also could very much see, because it's Ames, Iowa, and there's a different whistle up there, I know as much as everyone wants to say KU gets certain whistles at home, Iowa State gets whistles at home too. I see a scenario where in the first 6 minutes, Hunter's got 2 fouls.
Oh no!
And he's sitting. They're going to Flory.
You're gonna have to play Flory the entire game.
Flory plays well, but makes some mistakes because he's tired. Or we have to roll KJ at the 5 and Iowa State. I could see it happening. Like to me, Hunter's the only guy that could get in foul trouble. That has me a little bit worried. I know, and again against Duke when he got kicked out of the game, we did fine, but he's the only one that you really don't have. Like your entire game plan changes if Hunter is out, and I think that also plays into the advantage of Iowa State. Like, I don't want Zeke to get in early foul trouble, but that's another one. Though to me, those are the two guys that I could see the game setting up to get them in early foul trouble, and then we're going, oh my gosh, Dickie Coit has to come in and put up buckets quick because it doesn't want to play AJ Storr. Like, I could see that scenario playing out.
God, that scares me. Do you have we've talked a little bit about like the ways that this team can improve. And maybe, we talked about, I know in the past we talked about like this would be our ideal lineup. I don't know if these are two different answers, but has that ideal lineup changed? Or what is your ideal lineup for Iowa State in particular? Are they the same lineup? Can we kind of bring back that conversation? Because I think, I think we've seen a lot out of Hunter recently to where we're like, okay, like Hunter should definitely obviously be playing. But then again, I mean, I know Flory's been doing great. We've seen so much out of Shak Moore, but here you are talking about how Shak probably doesn't match up with Iowa State all that well. I mean, who are the 5 guys? Let's phrase it this way. And I don't know if you want to go around the room or not, but who are the 5 guys that you feel deserve the most minutes and give us the best chance to win this game?
See, that's a key word there, deserve. Because if you want to go off of potential and also off of what we've seen, I think there's 2 different answers. I think we all agree we would love to see AJ play more, but the further into the season we go, is it realistic of us to have the expectation AJ is going to have that big of an impact? Because the play style just has not matched up. So maybe that's not AJ. So Spencer said something earlier that I think for me plays into this, which is, KU can run and gun with Flory at the 5 and speed things up and go even if KJ's on the floor. I still don't love it, but if KJ's on the floor, they could go Flory, KJ, Ryland, Zeke, and Juan. They could go Ryland. If Iowa State's playing a smaller lineup, which they probably aren't, Ryland could play the 4, and then you go Zeke, DeJuan, and Shak out there. But it's for me, it's still all about the team you're playing against. If they can exploit KJ's weaknesses and Hunter's defensive weaknesses, it almost doesn't matter what lineup we put out there. So I guess that's my first answer. The second answer of how would I go out there against Iowa State? As much as he won't do this because there's not a backup plan, I do think we need to see the Flory-Hunter combo more. Mm-hmm. Let Hunter play basically the back end safety, and let Flory use his length and athleticism to move around the middle of the court on defense. And then offensively, you just got to play aggressive through them, and then hope that the 2 of them are athletic enough to use their size. But I don't know, man. Iowa State's freaking tough. There's really, as I look at it, Lipsy and DeJuan Harris should cancel each other out. Zeke and Kashawn Gilbert will basically even each other out. To me, it's who stops Curtis Jones from having a big game. I think he went 4 for 7 from 3 the other night in their very close win against Texas Tech on the road. But Curtis Jones can get hot. He shoots 40% from 3. Milan whatever his name is, Mamovich, he also shoots 44% from 3. So to me, it's like, who's going to defend the 3-point line and play aggressive? If KU can come out and be the physical, aggressive version of what they can be, I think we have a great shot. So to me, at that point, I don't think it matters who's on the court, because I think Iowa State has a very well-balanced roster that there's not much weaknesses on that roster that you can exploit with certain lineups.
Man, if I was a betting man, I would go with KU to win this game with how much you're talking about.
I'm interested to see what the
Iowa
line's
State
going to
is.
be. The line is not out
man.
yet. I'm expecting Iowa State to be a 4.5 point favorite.
I feel like we can win by 4. I feel like we can win by 6. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm optimistic, JB, this episode, man. I just feel it. I know it's weird. You know, I kind of equate this to like when I'm filling out March Madness brackets, which I tend to get a little bit competitive with. But you know, I look at stuff and I read all these analysts' commentary and all these things, and I hear like, oh, Team A is really good in the paint, really good defensively, really big. And Team B really struggles in the paint and doesn't have a lot of size. And I read these things. I don't care what the seed is. I'm like, oh, so I'm going to go with the team that's really good in the paint. And then the tournament happens, and I don't know how, but I'm always wrong. It's like I'm using logic here, and logic would tell me that KU is probably going to lose this game. I just feel optimistic. Maybe it's the 3-game win streak. Maybe it's Shak Moore and the hype around him. Which, by the way, we sent out a tweet about it, but you know, asking if people are more thankful for snow days or for Shak Moore. I don't think Shak Moore got enough love on that. But you know, I'm feeling oddly optimistic. Spencer, I don't know. How do you feel, man? Do you think we're going to win or what?
I mean, I would say run it with the same lineup you've done the past during this 3-game win streak. I mean, I think you go out there with a really physical, defensive-minded starting lineup. Maybe we get them to not get out to a really hot start offensively. And then you come in maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes into the game, get some of your offensive firepower in there. Because I'm worried about kind of that period of like 12 to 5 minutes left in the first half. I'm worried about going through an offensive slump and then going into half down 8, down 11. And then, you know, we're down, let's say we're down, well, I'll meet in the middle. Let's say we're down 10 in the first half. They come out the second half, they hit 2 quick threes. Well, now we're down 16. And then all of a sudden it starts to snowball and we can't quite get up there. Maybe we'll cut the lead down to 8 a couple times, but they'll keep pushing back. So I think preventing a hot start offensively and then maybe getting your shooters in there, maybe giving Storr and Griffin a run in that middle of the first half time period is the way you go for it. And then finish, I say you finish the first half, finish the last game or the second half with your best offensive lineup out there. Get Hunter inside so we can go inside. Get your shooters out there. Get your scorers out there. Run it with Zeke. Run it with Storr and Griffin in the lineup. And at that point, you know, maybe we can, you know, have some fresh legs. You know, if Storr and Griffin are playing 16 to 18 minutes, I think there's a recipe to win. But I'm really worried we get off to a sluggish start or we hit a slump in the first half or beginning of the second. That's my biggest fear. I don't want to say we'll win, then we'll get 40-pieced. So yeah. I don't want to say that.
So over under on AJ Storr playing 12.5 minutes.
Over. I think we'll get over. He played. Didn't he play like 15 in Cincinnati or something?
He had 10 in the last game, 14 in the game before that, and 11 or 12 in the game before that.
I'd hate to say it, but I would say under. That was my first inclination.
Like I like your thought process though. I don't feel like Bill's going to do that unless like he's not going to put AJ in there for offensive firepower. He's just not. No. So if AJ goes out there and like I could see him doing that with Griffin because at least with Griffin he thinks he's getting better defensive options, or which he does. So I think Griffin could have a huge game, but it just keeps to me feeling like AJ Storr is the odd man out. I don't know. I like the idea. I think what you're onto is something worth doing. I don't see Bill Self going, you know what? We're struggling to score. Let's throw AJ Storr out there, and the 8-point deficit we have becomes 14 because AJ's not playing defense and rebounding. He's just going to go right back to KJ, and he would rather put 4 people out there that can't shoot and score if he knows that they can guard defensively. So I don't know.
Well, is KJ a guy that's out there in the final minutes, even though he's not always an offensive threat? Is he a guy that's out there in the final 3 minutes of the game because he's a senior and Bill trusts him?
KJ's still in the circle of trust. Yeah,
he will.
Sure. He's in that.
I feel like that frustrates me. Like I feel like honestly,
right now your closing lineup is your starting lineup with Shak in there. and then you can flip-flop Shaq and Griffin depending on what you need. And honestly, if it was the right matchup, you could take KJ out and put Griffin in 4 for shooting and free throws. But
I wouldn't mind that.
AJ is not in that closing lineup, and I think no, he's not quite there yet. Like
I just have
I'm looking
a gut
at him
feeling.
and Diggy Coit, who's got the better chance? Like who's got the better chance of having a bigger impact in this game? AJ Storr or Diggy Coit? Coit's gonna play.
Coit.
I think we might see a Coit and Harris lineup out there for a lot of the game. I was thinking that too.
Really?
Yeah, I was thinking that. Although I don't know if you guys caught this during the UCF game, even though we were blowing them out. Coit took like a couple of like iffy 3-point selections, and I saw him getting coached up on the sideline by Bill a couple of times. I was like, oh, and we're going to see.
Well, and Bill did say in his press conference today, he did talk about somebody asked me, like, what do you got to do to get Diggy back on track scoring? And he goes, well, does he do enough to still give him playing time if he's not hitting buckets? He goes, well, looking at our roster and the guys that are out there, we didn't bring Diggy in to be a defensive guy. We brought him in for his scoring and shooting. He's actually played pretty well defensively. But if I had to, take my chances on a guy going out there to go shoot, I'm okay if Diggy goes out there and takes 5 or 6 shots, even if he misses all of them, because that's what he was brought here to do. So, again, that to me tells me he's going to have an opportunity. He goes, yeah, if he connects on 2 of those, then we're fine. It's when he doesn't connect, if he goes 1 for 6, then, yeah, we've got some question marks. So that's the same of any player if they go 1 for 6. But, yeah, it just feels like the AJ Storr conversation that we started the season with, and I'll have to repost that quick video from Spencer talking about, who's the guy that's getting up in the doghouse. It's obviously going to be AJ Storr. It just doesn't feel like his presence on the court does enough right now. Now, could that change? Your season's still early. Again, I think this is a game that you need him and Rylan Griffin to have a big game because they're bigger athletic wings. It's just a matter of how much is Bill Self going to trust him. But Austin, let me kick this over to you. Who is your X factor in this game to get Kansas a victory in Ames, Iowa?
Oh, it's definitely Shak Moore for sure. I mean, if he continues to play that he's been playing, the past couple of games, I definitely think it'll make a difference Wednesday night for sure. There's a reason why he was, one of the best defensive players in the country, right? I believe he was in the voting for the best defensive player in the country 2 seasons ago with Mississippi State. Am I correct on that?
Yes. He was a Naismith Defensive Player of the Year.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, Kansas has to play their best defensive performance of the season. I mean, this Iowa State team, obviously, we've been talking a little bit about how good they are offensively and how they're gonna. I mean, I have every reason to believe that Iowa State's going to do everything that they can to get off to a hot start, because once teams get off to a hot start, on their home court against Kansas, look, it's the same story, same ending. We know how it starts and we know how it ends. So let's just avoid a fast start. Otherwise, if we let that happen, it's just going to be one of those deals where it's all right, well, we know how this is going to go. And then KU will come back. Make it close, Oh, are we going to come back and beat them? Oh, nope. You're going to lose by 7.
Come on.
That's how it goes, right? No, but I think just doing everything that you can to prevent Iowa State from getting off to a hot start is going to be key. And I do think Shak Moore is the X factor because I mean, really, he's made a difference. I mean, look at how we played versus how we're playing now. I mean, I'd say it's a little bit different. Offensively, we put up a lot of points in the first few games, but the offense definitely needs to step it up, and we know that they're capable of doing that, but just got to step up defensively, and I think the offensive part will take care of its own. But you just got to make your shots and get the right looks. But in terms of the X factor, though, Shak Moore is my guy.
Yeah, and nothing against Zeke. Zeke's had a tremendous season. But Zeke's not known to being a defensive guru type guy. So when KU didn't have that 2 spot filled with somebody that 2 or 3 spot filled with somebody that was defensive minded, I think that also put a lot more pressure on Zeke to have to do some of that too. So now he's got 2 guards around him. Zeke doesn't have to go guard the toughest guard out there, which usually DeJuan takes or now Shaq's taking. They can use Zeke in a little bit different manner defensively and move him around some because you've got 2 guys side by side that could guard the other team's opposing best guard. So I think that does play a huge factor into us to where maybe the guard play is ugly. So I look at this game. Iowa State averages 86 a game. They get anywhere above 75. KU's not winning this game, in my opinion. Against that team in that environment, I don't see how we score more than 75. So if KU can keep this game in the 60s, I think they have a good shot. But to me, it's all about the physicality in the paint. KU's got to attack the paint. They got to get to the free throw line. They cannot keep going through games with less than 10 free throw attempts. That's probably one of the things that I would rather them go, 2 for 18 from the 3-point line than have less than 10 free throw. Like I'll take the 2 for 18 from the 3-point line if it also means they're getting 12 to 15 free throws a game. So I think they got to play physical in the paint. They got to attack. They got to come out like you guys are saying, attack right away, and just play physical. You play physical. You meet Iowa State at that physicality spot like they are, and I think you're going to be in this game, and then you just got to hope a few shots on your end fall, and a few shots for them don't fall. So that's where I don't have a final prediction on this game. I'd love to see where the line opens up at, but yeah, to me, that's how KU wins this game. Free throws, limit the 3-point line for Iowa State, and just be physical in the paint, and I think KU's got a good shot. That's all my thoughts on this one. After that, they have a very, very, what we should say is a very easy home game next weekend against K-State.
But it won't be.
Just a dumpster fire of a team right now.
Oh, come on. Everyone watching this podcast knows darn well it doesn't matter if K-State is good or bad. They always play us to the best of their ability, to a superhuman ability. They always play us incredibly well. I just don't get it, man. I mean, chalk it up, I guess.
It's the same thing the Chiefs go through. Chiefs are everyone's Super Bowl every single week. They get everyone's best.
I'm going to watch
K-State's terrible.
I'm going to watch K-State play tomorrow, so
you're going to watch them get blown out.
But exactly. I'm going to watch them play against Tech tomorrow. So
I was talking to a former. I'm not going to mention his name, but a customer of mine is a former K-State basketball player from a long while ago, and we were talking about it. He was like, "There's a lot of frustration because this roster is not well put together." I'm like, yeah, your best player you got in the transfer portal isn't even playing, and they don't want to talk about why he's not playing. Your guy you spent $2 million on can barely get to 10 points a game and does not fit alongside in my opinion, their best player in Gasson. But anyway, this is not a K-State podcast. That is already too much. We'll get into that later. But yeah, that's all I got on this game. You guys got any other thoughts before we get out of here?
78-75 KU, and we beat K-State. We're winning. We're keeping it going.
5-game win streak.
That's what I say. At least.
I think it'll be a close game. That's all I'll say. I'm not gonna say who will win. I think it'll be a 1 or 2.
All right, that's fair.
I don't want to jinx myself either, so I'm just gonna say it's a close game as well. Because every time I say that, KU's gonna win or the other team's gonna win, it's not gonna go the way that I want it to. So
what would the line have to be for you to take Kansas to cover, assuming that they're not the favorite?
It's a great question. I don't know. 3,
to me it's
maybe?
5. To me it's 5. I think
3 points?
5.5. If it's closer than 5.5, I don't think I would take KU to cover. If Vegas thinks it's a close game, then Iowa State's going to win by like 6.
Vegas always knows.
So I'm curious on that. But yeah, other I guess real quick thing. KU football is off to a tremendous offseason. We'll spend an episode. I need to do an episode coming up on transfer portal. They picked up another fantastic portal edge this weekend. Linebacker, wide receivers. They've added a lot this last week. So we'll get into that maybe next week. I got a lot on my plate this week, but we'd love to jump in with a little bit of that and then some other stuff coming up. But yeah, if you are still watching and you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're still doing, waiting around to subscribe. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Send the podcast to a friend. Hit that like button below so other KU fans can find us. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias at KCSA Pod. Always got stuff going on there. And then just stay tuned for all the upcoming content we do. But that'll wrap it up on this one. For Spencer, Austin, JB, I'm Keegan Russell. This has been the KC Sports Authority podcast. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Rock chalk.
Rock chalk.